All right. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to today's class. And in today's class, we are going to talk about authentication and working with Postgres, and then how to implement file uploads. So we already, in our last class, we talked about authentication and we saw how we could use JWT, or we saw how we could create a register route. And I think what was remaining was the login route and I think reset password, forget password route, and the rest. So we are going to see how to do that. Then we're also going to look at how to work with Postgres, right? So Postgres is a database, right? That is a relational database. Okay, and I remember that I talked about SQL and NoSQL, that the databases which has to do with relation and non-relational database. And I said that uh relational databases have relationships, like relationship between two tables or two different maybe entities or two different records, right? So one record could be related to another record in such a particular way, right? But then we have similar thing in MongoDB, but what makes MongoDB different from Postgres is the strictness in terms of um, uh, data schema, right? Enforcing a data schema. We said that Postgres is, or MongoDB is schemaless, which means it doesn't really need a schema for its data. You can just store data as you want, while MongoDB is schemaless. And so MongoDB is schemaless, while Postgres, right, has schema or uses a schema. Um, yeah. So I remember that that's what we talked about. Okay, then we would work with Postgres. Then the next thing is file upload. So of course, you might be creating a website where people might want to upload files. Plus maybe for example, an e-commerce site. Okay, is it not the other way around? So Postgres enforces the schema, right? While MongoDB doesn't enforce schema, it's schemaless, right? That's that's one thing that makes them different. So MongoDB, right? If you are using, so the reason why we use Mongoose is because Mongoose allows us to declare schema at the application level. But if you are using MongoDB, like a Mongo package directly, you can just call create or update or all those stuff. You can just call them directly without needing to specify any schema anywhere. Just need to connect to the database and do what you want, save and then disconnect, right? If you want to do some other thing, you connect to the database, save. Like if you were using Mongo's driver directly, you just save directly and retrieve without needing to go through any schema. Okay. But then with Postgres, you have to create that schema, and there is also what is called migration. So migration of the structure, right? For your data, you need to migrate it. So migrating is like updating your database with what the schema says, so that the database will understand what kind of information is coming in and to normalize other information or other records that was on the database. So it corresponds with the schema or the updates you've made. Okay, so that's it for Postgres. So file uploads, right? We talked about I said you want to upload files or give your users the ability to upload files, right? And doing that, you will need a service. So there are several services you could use for that. You could use you can use Firebase. Firebase allows, I think it's called Firestore, if I'm not mistaken. So Firebase allows you to save files. You can use Cloudinary. Cloudinary is another platform that allows you save files on the internet. Then it gives you the link to those files. You can use, some people use Google Drive if you know how to configure it. You can also use more what's it being called again? I'm trying to remember the name. I can't remember it currently. Yeah, fly.io, right? You can use, oh, sorry, Tigris data. Sorry, not fly.io. Tigris is another platform that allows you to save. Then AWS S3, right? You can use AWS S3 or AWS. They have a package that allows you, or a service that allows you save files, on the cloud and the rest. So the two which I've used and I would also introduce to you would be using Cloudinary and using Tigris data. So let's dive into it already. Okay, so let me reshare my screen. Let me reshare my screen and let me be sure I'm not showing.
Recording in progress.
Okay, so let me stop sharing. Then I'll share again. Okay, so I hope hello. I hope you guys can see the VS Code. Okay, cool. So, okay, so we did login, I guess. Let me check. I think we did login. So password match. Okay, we prepare this token. Okay, so we did this verify and the rest. So let's see. Verify OTP. Okay, yeah. So I did this already. Now, how do we, let's create a protected route. So a route that you have to be logged in to be able to use, or to be able to, to be able to access, for example. So if you want to create a protected route, right? This is how you would want to do it. Now, let's, okay. Okay. Let's come back here to do. Where is it? To do. No, not the schema. Yeah. No. Okay, yeah. So I want to make it that for you to access any of these routes, you should be logged in. Like for you to view a to-do post or get or patch or delete any of this, you need to be logged in. So now, for me to do that, I'll need to create a middleware, right? So what would that middleware do? That middleware will always check if I'm logged in, right? If I'm logged in, it will allow me to query any of those routes or query any of the routes that I want to query. If I'm not logged in, it is going to stop me from, or it's going to bounce my request, stop me from proceeding. Right. So let's go on. Let's go on. Let's see how we can actually do that. Okay. So I would create a new folder. I'll call it middleware. A middleware folder, and then I'll create a new file inside that middleware folder. I'll call it maybe I could call it check if logged in, maybe check if logged in.js. And this is going to be if logged in. This is going to be a middleware. Okay. This is going to be a middleware that is going to accept a request, response, and a next. Right? A request, a response, and a next. And then in here, what I want to do is I'll just wrap it in a try and catch. So if there's any error, just throw. Oh, okay, if I'm throwing the error, I would have to throw it with a message. Okay. So I want to say rest.send dot status. Maybe I'll make this a 500. Then I'll just say error. That way. Then here, what will happen is I would say req dot. So now, first thing you should know is that you're sending your authentication token via, okay, so let me try to log in first. Where is it? Let me come back here and check. So the npm run dev. So let me try to log in again. And I think I mentioned that you shouldn't push this file. So that, because look, we have email and password here, right? So it wouldn't be okay to push this file because it contains sensitive data. You see OTP token and all this stuff. So it could come to your git ignore. Okay, I think I ignored it. I said okay dot rest. Okay, dot HTTP. Cool. Let me try to log in again. Okay. So what is an internal server error? What happened? What happened? What happened? Internal server error, successful pause. Let me try again. Okay. So why? Why is that? Let's come here. Let's trace that issue already. So we have auth controller log in. Okay, login accepts that. User model, find the email. If email is not found, do this, that. Okay. So let me check for the JWT key. Okay, the JWT key is there. So yeah, let's see how we can debug this first. So this is how I actually debug. Now you can use breakpoints. You can create breakpoints here, right? So breakpoint is where you want your implementation or your code to stop when it is running. So if I maybe create a breakpoint here, as soon as this code executes, it will stop at line 95 and it will not execute more than 95 when this login function is being called. But then what I like doing is I'll say console.log here, right? So what I'm trying to do is I want to even know if it is calling this function as a whole at least. Okay. So internal server error, it did not print here, anywhere here. It did not print that here. So which means there's an issue somewhere. It's not even at that point. So auth controller login. Oh, okay, it's giving a 404. It's giving a 404. So now let's check. We have /auth. We have /login is a post request. It's content type of application /JSON. Am I starting the wrong server? Okay. So let's do it. Let's do it this way. I'll remove this. I'll say rs.send hello. Let me do that. Okay. Okay. Still the same. Still the same. Still the same. Oh. Okay. I think I understand what is going on. There's another server that is running with the same port. Actually, there's a server running with exactly the same port. So that's why that is happening. It's not really because there's any issue. There's a server running with that same port. So let me crash that server and close it. Let me restart. So this is another thing you guys probably did not know. If you're using NodeMon, right, to start your server, if you just type rs um on your terminal and you press enter, it will restart the server. So in case you want to restart the server, okay, you start it with rs. So let's see, still telling us 404. The port is started on 3000. Let's come here. Okay, so let me try to register this person again. Let me see. Wow. Wow, this is quite strange. This is quite strange. Let's register. Okay. Okay, sorry guys. Just we are going to trace this actually. I don't know. I don't know why this is happening. This is quite strange. This is quite strange. This is quite strange. /login is a request and response hello. Okay. So I want to end some processes, right? I think there's a process that's messing with PC. There should be a process that is messing with the PC. So that's the process I'm trying to kill. Okay. So let me try to start. Let me try to start it again. npm run dev. So this is quite funny though. I think there was a process. There was a process that I did. There's nothing I changed here. It's a process that was running that was messing with the server. So I can now come back here and take this back to how it was before. So I have what? Okay, so how did I do it? What I did was I opened my system monitor and I crashed all instances of the terminal that was running. So I crashed every other instance plus this instance of this terminal. So crashing it and starting it again, everything works well. And I understand why that happened. I slept my PC, I didn't actually off it. So it's possible that something strange happened also. Okay, cool. So this works. This works now. So I can come to my controller and remove this line of code because I know that my code works. So for the benefit of people that were not here before, right? We're not here in the last class. You would have to go and watch the video the former video to understand what happened. So what we did first was we created a to-do route and we created an auth route, right? Which are actually middlewares because we're using app.use, right? Then inside this auth route or this auth router here is the router that has to do with everything authentication, while this router here for to do is the router that has to do with everything for to do. And they are in the route folder. So if you see the to do route is in the router folder, is in the router file that's in the router folder, and auth router is in the user router file, which is in the router folder. And let's go to our router folder. So you see, we have the auth router, which is for everything authentication. Then this one, which has to do with everything to do. Then of course, there are controllers for them, the auth controller and the to do controller. Okay. Okay. So we've done that. Let's see. Okay, so we're able to query all these routes and we're able to create a user. So that was what I was trying to test, trying to log in as that particular user. So yeah, I've just logged in as that user, like I've gotten a token which I can use as that particular user that's logged in, which is Victor Peter. So now we know that we can query any of these, right? We can just get any to do. We can get any list of to do, right? But we don't want it to be like this. Yeah. So I'm using MongoDB for this, not Postgres yet. I'm using MongoDB, right? So this is where I declared the schema for MongoDB. See it here. Where is it? Schema. See it. User schema. So if user schema contains full name, email verified, and password. Then it to do, which has a title, description, and to do status, and also the OTP schema to keep the OTP, the token for the OTP, the user ID, which is the user that requested for that OTP, and the purpose of that OTP. Beautiful. Now let's come here. Let's come back here. So we don't want you to be able to access this to-do route except you're logged in. So let's see how we can do that here, right? So we are going to check the request header, right, for the user. Remember that when we are sending a request here, we said the content type is application/JSON. We can also add an authorization header. We can say authorization bearer, and then a token here. Okay, and there are different schemes, right, for authentication. There's the basic one, there is the bearer one, there are different other ones. The ones that have to do with client ID, client secrets, and the rest. But in the modern, what we use generally, right, is this one, is the bearer kind of token. Okay, so you'd want to send your request that way. And since this is a header, you can trap that header from here in your requests. So const req dot headers dot, sorry. So I'll say auth token dot authorization. Okay, so let's do something. Let's just say console.log. I'll say auth token. I'll say auth token, and I'll say the auth token here. The auth token. Then I'll just call the next for now. I'm not checking anything. I just want to show you guys something. Now, what we've done is we've created a middleware that as soon as that middleware is called, it will extract the authorization token and just log it out, and then call the next route, which is supposed to treat that request. Now, we've written this and we need to export it. So we'll say nodule.export equals to check if logged in. Okay, we are going to do that, and then let's come back here. Let's come back to this to-do route. Let me close this other part of the screen so that it doesn't confuse you guys. So I'll come here and I'll import what I just created. So I'll say const check if logged in should be equals to require so middleware slash check if logged in. And there are two ways you can add a middleware. The first one is by using router.use, and then you write the middleware check if logged in. Now, writing this here is going to affect all the routes that come under it. Okay, so this middleware is going to take effect for any of these routes that are being called or that will be called. So let's come back here and make a request. Let me just make a get request to get to this. Now you notice, what is it showing down here? It's showing that auth token is undefined. So auth token is undefined, which is what I wanted. So now let me try to declare, a header for this get request. So I'll do authorization, maybe hello, something like that, and I'll send that request again. Have you noticed? So it shows auth token hello, right? Then it still queries to get the task. Okay. So with what we wrote here, or what we've written here, we're able to. So when you say request.headers dot, anything you put on your headers, for example, let me give another example. I could do something like this. I could say console.log something. Now just say req.headers dot something. Then when I'm sending a request, I just need to add something here. Something I could say could be anything. Could be anything. And I'll just send that request. So if you notice, so you see, something, the value of something is could be anything. So this is to tell you that you can create values, right? For the middle, for the header. Can create, so something could be anything. So this something here is giving you the value, could be anything. So you could use headers that way. And of course, when you're using it, when you're sending the request, your authorization will be in capital letter, no doubt. But here, when you want to get it, your authorization should be in small letter, should not be in capital letter, right? So now, what we want to do is, when the user sends a request, so let me try and log in again. Let me try and log in again and show you something. We want it that when the user logs in, when the user tries to log in, let's say the user logs in, this is what the user should do. For any requests he wants to make to those to-do routes, this is what he should do. We'll say authorization, and then we'll say bearer and the token. That's token, right? The token, that middleware token. Okay. Then when we send that request, of course, you see, we've not started checking for this token, but you see, the authentication token is bearer and then the token. So let's come back here and see what we can do with that information we've been able to track. So we can do this. We can say, we can import JWT, JSON web token, should be equals to require JSON web token. Now, why are we even importing JSON web token here? We want to use the token to verify if that token that the user is sending is valid or not. So we want to do like, we'll do this, we say value is equals to JSON web token dot not decode dot verify. Now, why am I using verify, not decode? Decode is just going to check and show you the payload of the token, right? Meanwhile, verify is going to show you, verify is going to check the signature of that token and also show you the details of that particular token that was supplied. So in case you just want to inspect the payload of the token, you can use decode. But if you want to check if that token is even genuine, if it's you that signed it, you know, because you're going to supply the private key when you're doing this verify. So you can use verify for that. Okay, so we've seen that we have bearer and we have this token, and the two of them are separated with space. What you would want to write here is you might want to do this. And I say authorization token dot split. You want to split by space, because remember that when you do split now, it will change this to an array. Then bearer will be the first value of that array, and then this other text will be the second value of the array. Let's try it and see. So if you notice, you see, bearer is since we use split, bearer is the first, that's the index of 0, while this other one is in the index of 1. So we want to do that, and we want to check here. We'll then check. So what you can do here is, since it's an array, you can destructure it by saying scheme and token. Okay. So instead of you coming to do, you know, the normal way of we doing it normally would have been something like this. We would have said something like maybe value here. Then we'll now say something like maybe let's scheme. let scheme equals to value at the index of 0, and then let the token, let token equals to the value at the index of 1. Of course, we would have done this, but this is actually still okay. This is still very fine. But instead of doing this, why don't we use the shorter way of doing it? We say, since it's an array, we want to destructure that array and remove what we want to remove. So if you've been reading the Eloquent JavaScript book I dropped, definitely you'll see all these things. So it would say our scheme and token. Then before you even do any verification, you want to check if the scheme dot to local lowercase is equals to bearer. Then if it is equals to bearer, then it means it is the scheme you're looking for, right? Then you want to do something like this, and this is where you want to now verify that token that was sent. So you say jwt.verify, and then you say verify. The first arguments to verify would be the token itself. The second thing you want to pass here is the key, the secret key. Remember that the secret key we wrote here. Where is it? Okay, so Matilda, you said have you, so this is the thing. If this authorization was an object, like maybe I transformed it to an object, right? That's when we would use, okay, so let's do it this way, right? Let me log out the thing. Let me log out the token, and I'll just say console.log scheme, then comma token. So let's do that. Let me come back here and make that request. Oh, did I? Okay, sorry. Sorry, yeah. So Matilda, can you see the scheme is bearer and the token is this value? Can you see that? So if you're destructuring an object, that's when you use curly brackets or curly braces. But when you're destructuring an array is still an object. An array is still an object actually, but an array is a special kind of object that uses index as its key, while an object you use a name as its key. So since I'm destructuring an array, right? Remember that split converts your string to array, right? So destructuring it, I know that the first value will always be the bearer, and then the second value will always be the token. Remember that the token we are sending, or the information that we are using on the authorization header has a space here. It has bearer space and then a token itself. So let's continue. So we have bearer and yeah. So we have the token. The next thing we want to check is the JWT key. So we say process.env.jwt key. JWT underscore key. So if we were to use a JSON web token dot decode, right? If you check here, you just need the token alone. Just need the token. You don't need the private key because, oh yeah, you don't need the private key because what the code will just do is just show you the payload. But this one verify, you want to check, apart from the fact that this token has a payload, is it me that assigned it with this key? If it's not you that assigned it, it will throw an error. So now, this value that will be returned here will be what, remember that when we tried to log in, when we wanted to log in here, or where is it? When we wanted to log in here, at this login, remember that when we created the token, we put the user's ID and the user's email inside that token. So now, when we are verifying that token, what will be returned to us here in this value is going to be the user ID and the user email that is inside that token. So let's see, let's do that. So say, let's just log it out. Just log the value out. So I'll just do that and I'll make the request again. So now, do you notice we have user ID, we have the email, and we have this IAT. So this IAT is the issuance time, the time and date that that token was issued, right? And you can convert this to a date, a meaningful date. If you know how to use your date object, your JavaScript date object, you can convert this to a date and see the particular date and time that this token was created. Of course, this token didn't have an expiry date, which is not good, which is not safe, because anybody that has this token now can pretend to be me and do whatever they want to do. Okay, so but let's just continue. Now, we have this value. What I like doing at the end of the day is, I always like doing this. I'll say request.user_detail, or I'll say, sometimes I say request.decoded. Request.decoded should be equals to this value. Okay, now this is me adding my own details to that request that you made before it reaches the middleware that is using it, that wants to use it. Now, why do I even do this in the first place? I'm doing this because I want it that when that request passes through this this function or this middleware and it reaches the controller, right, for login or for any route, the controller that is going to process the request I made, that controller should be able to know who sent that request using this request.decoded property here, which I added to the request. Then, of course, I will only say, so now what I'm saying here now is, once I do this, right, then the next thing I want to do is I want to call the next. So if your scheme is not bearer scheme, right? If your scheme is not a bearer scheme, it won't call the next. Okay, I could decide to do an else. I could say else ras dot status 422. And 422 means not processable also. Send. Then this send, I'll just simply say message invalid authentication scheme. So I'm just saying that your scheme is not a good scheme. So I can comfortably remove this part of the code. Okay. Right. So I hope you guys are following. You guys are following. I hope you guys are following. Okay. Now, let's come back to this to do. Let's come back to this to do. So get all to do. Remember that in this check if login, we have added a new property to this request object, and the new property is decoded. So I said, so anywhere you do request.decoded in a, so let's do this. Let me come back here. I'll explain further. any of these routes, in any of these routes, if I call request.decoded, it's going to show me the user's detail as far as we have this middleware that affects all this router. Now, in some cases, you might want it that, oh, this middleware should just affect some routes. It shouldn't affect all the routes that are under it. Now, if you want to do that, the simple way to do that is to put the middleware in the route that you want it to affect. For example, doing this now means that anytime I send a GET request to this particular route, only this route here that is going to be affected by this middleware. And you can put more and more middleware if you want. You can put another middleware here if you have it, put another middleware. As much middleware as you want, you can put it before it gets to the final controller. So most times what people do is they say, okay, the first middleware should check if you're logged in. Maybe the second middleware should check if you're an admin before you can get to the final controller. You get. So there's first the authentication middleware, then there's the other one for maybe access, maybe role-based access, something like that, right? And we've not started role-based access yet. Most times you want to add that role-based access to your you want to add the role of the user to the token, right? When you're signing the token, so that you can also check it as a middleware. Okay, so let me take this back to how it was before. Put that here. Then the next thing you want to do is you want to, so let's come back here and let's come back to this to do. Where is it? Let's come back to this to do and make the request again. Get all to do. So before we make the request, I just want to console.log. I want to console.log req.decoded here. I'll say, let me just put get decoded value. So get decoded value there. Then I'll come back here and I will send this request. So if you notice here at the when the middleware, or sorry, when the controller handled that particular request, you see it's actually knows who is sending that request at that time. You see the email, the IAS, and all those ones. Let me remove. I think okay, I've removed. Okay, yeah, sorry, this is where so that I'm sure. So let me just make that request again. Right, so this is coming from here. This to do here, get decoded value. So you see, now we've been able to decode and add something, a value to the controller, and the controller can use that to do whatever it wants to do. Now, with this, we can make it possible for users to create tokens, or sorry, to create to-dos that belong to them. Okay. So let's see how we can do that. If we want to create to-dos that belong to a particular user, let's see. Let's come back here. We'll just do a little bit of editing. So now notice that this to-do doesn't have any user ID or any ID that has to do with the user that is using that to do or doing that to do at the moment. So we can do something like this. We can say user ID should be equals to type types mongoose dot types dot object ID, and then the reference is going to be, so this reference is to which collection are we referencing this user ID to. So let's come back here. It has to exactly match what you write here. So it is the users collection. So we say users here.
I don't know what's in media. As I say, this one has still from number with and also make I do.
Okay. Okay, so we've done that. I say required is true. Required is true. So this required here means it has to be provided. And then what I want to do here is I want to come back to this route, a bit the controller, the to-do controller. I would say when I'm creating a new to-do, right? That I'm adding a title, a description. I want to add a user ID also. So I'll say user ID. So the user ID would be req.decoded.user ID. So when next I'm creating a to-do, it's going to add my user ID automatically as far as I'm logged in. Okay. So another thing I failed to do here is, what if the token wasn't even supplied? What if the authorization token, what if authorization wasn't even supplied? So I could do something like this. I could say if there is no authorization token header, then I want to return ras.status of 400, and I want to send to the user. I want to send a message. The message will tell the user that no token supplied. So doing this now, let's come back here. Let me try to create a new to-do. Okay, it's saying no token supplied. No token. Okay. Sorry about that. No token supplied. So let me just copy let me just copy that bearer token and use. So I do that. Definitely. So now look, we have this new user to do created, but it has a user ID, and I can get okay, let me create two. Let me create another one. This is the sixth task. This is the sixth task, and we send it. It still creates with that same user because it's that user that is logged in, because the user supplied this bearer token. That's the front end, for example, supplied that bearer token. Okay. And we can decide that when we want to get, right? Sorry. When we want to get the token now, it is now. So what is it doing? Okay. Sorry. When we want to get, right? Now, if you notice, it's getting for the one that didn't have any user. It's getting for also the one that has a user with a user ID, which is probably not what you want to do. Maybe you want it that this user, when he queries this route, he should only get his own task or to do that he created. So let's come back and modify this. So let's see how we can actually do that. Let's see how we can do that. Now let's come to the user route or the user, to do controller. And this is where we get all to do. Now we want to find all to do, but we want to find where the user ID, is req.decoded.user ID. Remember, right? You save it. Now, if you save that and you come and make the request again to get everything, what you see is, you see two now. You see this first one and the second one. Okay, you see these two because those are the ones that belong to that particular user. So you can use this to now restrict, from what we've done now, you see that we've been able to restrict who has access and who doesn't have access to your, or to the, not really who has access and who doesn't have access. I'm restricting it to what you created actually. So if you do not create it to do. So now if there are like 20 users, each user will be able to create and manage his own to do, right? And even when you want to delete now, so when you want to delete, for example, we can delete anybody's to do at this point, but there should be a way to delete, right? And target only your own to do. So probably in this delete now, if you want to do that, in this delete here, we want to write an if statement to check if the to do you're trying, we'll first fetch the to do you're trying to delete, and then we'll check if the ID, if the user ID on that to do match with the ID that's of the user that is sending that request to delete that to do. If the two of them match, then it means it is the user that owns that to do and he is at liberty to delete that to do. But if they don't match, then it means you're trying to delete a to do that is not yours, which shouldn't work. So if you want to do that, we say const to do should be equals to await to do model dot get or find by ID, and then sorry, the ID would be this params ID. Then after that, you want to check if to do dot user ID is not equal to req dot decoded dot user ID, which means you're not the owner of that to do you're trying to delete. So you want to say res dot status, the status could be 401 dot send. Then you send a message saying you this action is forbidden, or this action is forbidden. Remember to add your return, important, so that it won't say this and try to still go down to delete the to do. Okay. So with this few point of mine, I think I've been able to convince you and not to confuse you about how the whole to do the whole MongoDB works, right? So at this point, I think we should start moving towards Postgres to see how we can actually use it. Okay, we should move towards Postgres. So does anybody have any question based on what I've explained so far? Okay, so in the absence of any question, I think I would, so let me, I don't know if I should spin another project up. I don't know. I'm thinking out loud. I think I should spin another project. Someone says, please do, sir. Okay. All right. So let me spin another. So now, remember that this project, I spinned it up by writing everything from scratch, which was quite tasking. But in the next project, or in the project I want to spin up, I want to spin it up using Express generator. So this is what I'll do. I'll say cd dot here. So I'm in my documents, right? And then I'll say Express and then the name of the project. So I'll call it sample Sample. Okay, yeah, I'll push this Kingsley, yeah, I'll push it. Sample backend with Postgres. Thank you. Then the next thing I'll do is I'll cd. The next thing they said I should do is I should change directory into that uh that folder, because it creates a folder for us. So we say cd sample backend with Postgres. Then the next thing I'll do is npm install. So install npm install to install the dependencies I need. And the next thing I would want to do is when these dependencies finish installing, I'll open a new project with VS Code. Okay. So I'll write code and a period to open that up. So I'm waiting for it to open up and I'll share my screen. So let me share my screen again. Let me share my screen again. Let me share my screen again. Okay. Okay, so we are here already, and we see that it has scaffolded our project for us. So it has created everything. If we come to the package.json, you see a lot of things. First, it has created HTTP. In fact, let's start from here. It's installed a cookie parser. A cookie parser is just used to process cookies, and it can allow you to password a cookie. Okay, it can allow you to password a cookie. Then we have debug here. Debug is used for logging, right? For logging bugs or logging what should I call it? Should I call it bugs? No. It's used to create logs, right? Okay, someone is asking what does cookies do? Okay, so cookies are used for various purposes. Sometimes they are used to track visitors that come on a particular website. Sometimes they are used to track activities. Right? There's this funny joke. People say, if no be or if no be cookies wey one website give me, wetin I for chop today. So cookies are mainly used to keep information about a user or to track a user's activity on a particular website. And you need this cookie parser to be able to create cookies that you might send from back end to front end, right? Cookies you might want to send to your user to store those cookies on the user's path, on the user's end, on the client's end, right? So this helps in managing, processing those cookies, encrypting them. For example, if you want to encrypt a cookie and decrypt it and the rest. So this cookie parser is used for that, anything that has to do with cookies. Okay, I hope I've explained that. Then this debug is used to just create log. So when someone sends a request to the back end, it should show the time that request was made and all the stuff like that. We'll see how it works. Then Express, we already know what that one is. Okay, then HTTP errors. Although I've not used this, but I think this is used to, this gives you information or errors, right? You can, I haven't used this before, but I think it will give you information about what is it being called? Or it should be able to help you create HTTP errors easily or something. I haven't used it before. Okay. So from what I'm seeing, you can use it to create HTTP errors, which you can send to your user, and we'll see how or where it's being used or where it was used. So Jade, actually, Jade is not, we are not using Jade actually. Jade is used for Jade is used as what's it called, a template engine, right? Don't worry about what a template engine is, right? But that's what Jade is. We have Jade, we have Pub, we have handlebars, and others, right? Then we have, okay, I think Morgan is the logger actually. Morgan is the logger, while this is used for debugging purpose, right? So personally, I haven't used debug. I haven't used debug. I haven't used HTTP errors directly, right? And we'll see where HTTP errors is actually used. It's used here. Okay, so let's see. See it here. Create error from HTTP errors. If you scroll down here, you see that we use that to create an error somewhere. Okay, see it here. Create error 404. Then this you can also add a message here, like maybe something like, oh, not found or something. So it's used to create error, and you can use that error, you can send that error to the user and or to the front end and the rest. So if you look, there are some other things that are configured here for us. So we see that Express has been initialized. If you want to rename this from var to let or const, you can rename it. Totally up to you. Then we have these paths to views, and remember that here we have something like Jade. So now Jade is used to create it's used as a templating engine. Now let me explain. Let's take, for example, your front end and back end was written on Express, and it's possible. Express can host your front end and also host your back end at the same time, right? So if you wanted to use Express to write your front end and your back end, and you know that the information you're going to be using on your front end is going to be dynamic, and you don't want your front end to make requests directly to back end and then get response. You just want it that you can call a page to show, and then you can attach properties to that page, which the page can just automatically use while it is loading. So you can use something like Jade, which is a templating engine. So a templating engine allows you to do that string interpolation-ish thing that we used to do in JavaScript, where you put that $sign and you put the square curly braces, and then you can call name variables in there. So Jade allows you to do that, right? So when you're writing your Jade template, you can, the placeholders for what the backend is supplying to that page, Jade can allow you get those things and those properties and show it on the page when the page loads or is compiled back to HTML and CSS. It will show it. So you can comfortably delete this line of code. It's not necessary, right? Then we have this logger. This logger is used for logging, right? And there are different versions of that logger. We have dev, we have, I think if I do this, it should show. So, okay, we have combined, common, dev, short, timing. So depending on how you want it to show, you can use. Then remember express.json, which passes or processes JSON requests that contain JSON. Now, there are also requests that are URL encoded, right? And then this middleware here is used to process those kind of requests. Okay. And well, I don't know the reason for this extended or false. If you read Express documentation, you should be able to see why it is written there. Then the next thing is we have a cookie parser, which passes cookies and the rest. Then this one is important. Now, if you have static files like pictures, videos, or any other thing that is static, and probably you want your users to be able to access what is that static file, and or even when you're uploading files, right, maybe to backend, and you want to temporarily keep them, you can use public folder to keep those files temporarily. Okay, then, so this public folder, this just links to this public folder, which you're seeing here, which has to do with where you're storing static files. So static files are like pictures and the rest. Then we have index router and users router here, which was automatically created. Then we have an error handler to handle routes that don't exist. So if I did a / whatever route, it's going, this part is going to be the one to handle that error, of course. Then this other error handler here is going to handle when there is other kinds of error, maybe like server crash or something, right? So what we are simply saying here is, if we are on a development environment, right, that we should be able to send the error back to the user. Else, we should just send him an empty object. So what they are doing here is protecting you, so that now when you see those error that prints out on our console, it's not good for those errors to print out when you're on a production environment. It's very bad for those errors to print out when you're on a production environment, because people could use that to get vital information about your back end. So as much as possible, you need this kind of a thing for your code. Or better still, you can just only print error on your console, on your terminal, and not send the error to the user. Or maybe send the error, but not with the stack trace. So stack trace is that when you have an error, it shows you for that those folders, the path to all those folders, that's your stack trace, which you should only see as a developer and people shouldn't see it. Okay, I've said a whole lot of things at the same time. Action. So the first thing you want to do is you want to create a schema or model folder. So I'll just say model, let me call it schema. Then the next thing you want to do is you want to install. Now I remember I talked about using Prisma, but I changed my mind. Prisma would be, you'll be taught Prisma when you're going to intermediate. So I don't want to bring it here to teach you guys how to use. So when you get to intermediate, because Prisma is a lot broad, it's very, very broad, right? So when you get to intermediate, you start using Prisma. So what we are going to use to interact with SQL is going to be a library called SQLize. So we say npm install SQLize. So when you install SQLize, the next thing you want to install is the driver you want to use for SQLize. Now remember that we have MariaDB, we have SQL, we have Postgres, we have Oracle database, which all these are relational databases, and each of them have their separate drivers, right? Or separate package that you can use to interact with them. Okay, so we want to use Postgres we want to use SQLize with Postgres. So we need to install a driver, right, that can work with that. So we'll then say npm install pg and pg hstore. PG and PGH store. So once you do now, if you wanted to use this with SQLite, what you want to do is you want to install SQLite, you want to npm install SQLite. Now, if you were using SQLite with something like SQLite, so it says npm install SQLite and SQLite 3. If you wanted to, now what SQLite is, SQLite is a light version of SQL. Now, with SQLite, you don't really need a database server running. You just need an SQLite file, right? And that file will keep your database, your entire database. So when you add, delete, edit, do whatever I want to do, it's SQLite that would keep it. And that SQLite is just a simple file, right? Which your back end or your service can interact with. So spoiler alert. I say spoiler alert. Well, for some mobile apps that you use, which are mobile app first, right? Mobile first, or those mobile apps are designed with mobile first architecture, right? And let me give an example of a mobile app that was designed with mobile first architecture, something like WhatsApp. So WhatsApp, whether your data is on, whether your data is not on, you can open WhatsApp and you can view any message. So when you on your data, what happens there is just synchronization between data that you created that was not synchronized with the one online and the one that is online that you don't have locally, right? Most of those kind of apps use SQLite, right? Most of them use SQLite. And if you're a mobile developer here, I'm sure you must have heard of Watermelon DB, Watermelon database, right? Or Watermelon, Watermelon package. You can use Watermelon package to create mobile first designs, mobile first mobile apps, for example. I don't know why. I think that message is for somebody here. Somebody, I don't know, but my spirit is telling me it's for somebody here. Anyways, let's continue. So if you were trying to use SQLite with MariaDB, you want to install MariaDB driver. If you wanted to use it with MySQL, you will install SQLite and MySQL2. And the rest, there are more. Then, so we've installed what we want. The next thing is we need to start configuring. So in this schema, I'll just create a file and I'll call it connect.js, and I'll say here that to connect, first I would import that from, so it should be equals to require SQLite, I'll say SQLite. Then I want to say const SQLite should be equals to new SQLite. And then now, what do I need to pass in here? My Postgres path. So that's going to be Postgres. Then that should be local hosts. Oh wait, please just give me a brief minute. Because let me just check. I can't remember what that route is. Okay, so it's Postgres at localhost. It's Postgres at localhost with with a port of 5432. So the default port is 5432. Then you say / the name of the database you want to connect to. So, and you will need to create that database on your using pgadmin. You will need to create that database using pgadmin. Already I've created mine. Also, let me do that. Let me open pgadmin. pgadmin, and let's see. While pgadmin is opening, I'll just say to do. I'll just call the database to do. I'll create a new one. So I've done that. The next thing I want to do is I want to export this. So I'll say Moodle.export equals to SQLize. So I've done that. The next thing I want to create is a schema. So I'll say new file. I'll say to do schema or to do model. Anyone.js. And then we'll start defining our model. Okay, now before so doing this is not all, right? Remember that you want this to connect. You want to try and connect to the database and see if it has connected. Okay, so what you want to do is you would want to write. So I know I didn't teach you guys this, a closure. You can do this. This is allowed in JavaScript. What's okay, sorry. So you do this. And then in here, what can you do? You say await. Now, what I've written here is a self calling function. Like what is going to happen is this function is just going to execute as soon as this file is being loaded. Whatever I write inside here is going to be executed ASAP. So I'll write async, and I want to try and catch here. Okay, now this is one way. Another way you might want to do this, I'll still show you guys. If you don't want to write it this way, you can use the enable function. So you can do this. You can say, okay, so let me just finish this one. You can say await SQLize dot connect or authenticate, sorry. And then you say console.log connected to database. Then here you might want to say error connecting to database. Or you can do something like this. You can say SQLize dot authenticate dot then. And so this then and catch. Remember? So you can say this then, you can say something like connected. Then this catch, of course, remember, it's going to return the reason why they did not connect. So the reason can be trapped as error. Then you can say, you can do the same thing you wrote here, error connecting to database. Then you say error. Okay. So error connecting to database error. You can use any of these two, right? So we do this, and let's come back here to try to create a model. Now, the first thing you want to do is you want to import what you exported here. So you want to do something like require ./connect, which is that SQLize. Then you want to write so what should this model be? A to-do model. So the to-do model should be equals to. So wait, let me check here. Okay. So this would be SQLize dot define. Yeah, SQLize dot define. So here, the first thing you do is you give the name of the model, right? You give the name of the model. So you say to do model, or to do table, sorry, did I say model? To do table, or you can just call it to do because it's still a table. Or you can call it anyhow you want to call it. Then the next thing you want to declare here is your schema. So this should contain a title. And the title should have a type. Now, if you notice, if you look at this thing, it's similar to the way we did MongoDB. It's similar, it's just that there's small difference. Okay? There's small difference the way we are doing it here, but it's similar. But so let's just go on. Let's just go on. So you say type of what? Type of now. You won't just say string here. It won't work. What you want to do is you want to come here and import the types that SQLize provides. So you say this should be equals to require SQLize. Then you say you want to import data types. So you say the type should be data types dot string for the title. And then you can say something like allow null is false. So now saying allow null is false means this title can't be nullable. Like it cannot be null. It has to always be there. Like it always has to be provided. Then you can say something like description. Description should be the same thing. Type of data types dots. Yes. So yes. Matilda, yes, it's this allow null or false is like saying is required. Yes, it's like saying, so in MongoDB we said required or required should, but here we are saying null, allow null false. So no, it shouldn't allow null. So allow null false. So apart from data type of string, let's see other data types. We have abstract, array, big int, blob, boolean. So this blob is used mainly if you're storing a blob, something like, so you can convert a file to a blob and store it on your database, which is not advisable. Okay, so the table you created someone is asking the table you created. Okay. So the table you created in Postgres is called to do. Okay. Yes. Does your model name be the same as the table name? So the model name is not really supposed to be the same as your table name. It's your choice. sorry, if you want to name this to-do model and then name this to-do model, well, there won't be any conflict, right? But this is what the name of the table will be when it is being created, while this is what you'll be using to refer to this schema with this table, or this table that has this schema. This is what you'll be using to refer to. You'll be using this to-do model variable to refer to it. So there's different, there's double, there's enum, floats, plenty actually, right? UID4, UID1, virtual, actually plenty. So let's just stick to string at this point. So we have title and description. And the next thing I want to do is I like adding timestamps. So when I want to do something like this, timestamps should be true. So, and the next thing we want to do is we want to export our to-do model. So we want to say something like, we want to say module.export equals to-do model. Simple. So now what we've done is we've been able to create our to-do model and we've been able to export it. And we've also been able to try and connect to a database at the end of the day. So we've done that, and so we already have a lot of things created for us already. We have our index and we have our users. So now let me explain something. Now, anytime you use rest.render, it means you're trying to send a sorry, I've not answered the question. So Kingsley asked, so basically SQLize prevents us from writing raw SQL queries. Exactly, yes. SQLize, you can still write raw queries with SQLize. SQLize allows you to write raw query, but it also makes it easy for you to query your database without needing to write raw query. Just the same way we have Mongoose, right? And well, MongoDB doesn't really have raw query. You still use find all, find one, find and the rest. But then, yeah, it prevents you, not really prevents, but it makes it easy for you to query your database without putting the pressure on you to write raw queries. So you've not shown us how to create a database. Oh, okay. All right, so let's come here. Let me stop sharing that screen. Let's come to the PG admin. Let's share it. I don't have any master password. I don't know what the people are talking about. At the end of the day, they're asking me for master password. It's only Jesus that has the master key. Him and only him. So all this master password. So, what is going on? So let me refresh this. Okay. So what is going on? So it's saying, okay, okay, encrypt. I have an option. Since your system has no key to take. Wow. Itself. Now what for them? Why have a master password? Oh. I don't even know what I typed in. Hmm?
This contact is personal. It's the apology to myself.
I don't think there was a password. Okay, beautiful. So let me try to create a database. So I already did this. I told you I did to do already. So let me try to create a database. Let me check the name of the what I used before. Let me check what I used before. In Connect, so I used to do. I just named it to do, so I'll just say to do here. So yes, the owner is Postgres because it's Postgres we used here. So I'll save that, and we have a to do database created already. Beautiful. Okay. Then let's see how we can work. So let's go back to the code, and then let's see how we can continue. So let's come back here. Let me just do npm. So now, how do we know how we can start up? See, node starts. And we don't have nodemon here, so I'll just say npm install nodemon. 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 Don't mind me. So we'll install nodemon. And the next thing we want to do here is we want to write nodemon like that. Now, notice, in fact, when you are pushing this, when you're pushing your back end online, that's another thing I need to show you guys how to host this thing, because you need to host it actually. So when you want to push your database online, please don't use nodemon. In fact, when you want to do it, you can do something like npm run serve, and then the serve should use normal node, because on your back end, you're not expecting any changes to occur. Oh, sorry, on when you're hosting your server online, you're not expecting any change to occur as you're hosting that server online, except you push your code. And once you push your code, you should be able to update that change automatically online. Okay? You should be able to update that change automatically. Okay. Now, let's see. Oh, now, let's come back to this connect. I didn't explain. This side is the scheme. You know, when we were even connecting to MongoDB, we did MongoDB, I think we wrote MongoDB colon, then with the // and then the rest. But so another thing that makes MongoDB different from Postgres is that MongoDB doesn't have that user restriction, like, oh, you have a user that is supposed to connect and the rest. This one, you have a user, and if you have a password, you might want to do user and then the password here, but you have a user, and then if the password is there, you can supply it. If there's no password, you now say at localhost, which is the IP address or wherever you're hosting your Postgres from, and then the port that IP address is receiving traffic from. Okay. So, okay. So I feel the database are actually started. Let me save this. Let me come here and save. Okay. It's new. Please configure the version of the context. Wow. Overwrite now. Sure. Anyways, what is going on? Let's see. Okay, so what I will do here is I'll say require dot slash schema slash connects. Okay, so what I did was I just made it that our connection should be recognized by the entry point here at the end of the day. So it connects to database and I know everything is working. So what do we need to do now? What do we need to do? Let's start creating routes to use. So how do we even start creating routes? We want to say how do we even start creating routes? Don't mind me. So I'll just say to do route. So I'll create a post and a get routes because we want to move to something else. So we'll say const express so const router should be equals to express.router and router dot get and router dot post. So I'll say / I'll just leave it at / then I'll say REQ RES and here REQ RES. Okay, so here now, what we want to do here is we want to get our to-dos, right? So I want to import this to-do model I just created there. So I'll say to-do model should be equals to require dot slash schema slash to-do model. So I have the to-do model there. Now I could do something like const to-dos should be equals to await because it's still going to give you an async await kind of or it's going to return a promise. Okay. Sorry. So async and await to-do model. Sorry, to-do model dot find. Okay, we can say find all, and we'd say res dot send to-dos. I like sending JSON every time. I don't want to encounter issues. Then when you want to post, you want to say const req.body. You want to say let me come back here. So title and description. So you want to say title, description, and then you want to write So let's say async here, await to do model.create, and you'll just pass your title here and description, and you say now I know some people might be asking, what if you want to find by a condition, like find by an ID? Can do something like await to do model dot find by public key, find by PK, or sorry, find by primary key. So now remember that when we created Postgres, sorry, when we're creating model, we did not specify the ID in MongoDB, and it created IDs for us automatically, right? The same way Postgres will create those IDs for us too. So those IDs are actually called primary keys. So if you know the primary key, you can pass it here. If you just say dot find, or you say dot find one. So now if you say find one, you want to say where, then you want to put your condition where ID is this is that, or maybe where title should be something. Okay. So once I do that, res.send, I'll say message created. Then after that, the next thing I want to do is I want to export this router. So router.export, sorry, module.export equals to router, and I'll come here. I'll say to do router equals to require dot slash routes / sudo route, and then I would want to write app.use /2. Do you people remember? Do you people know what I just remembered? Okay. Before someone says I'm writing dirty code, I don't have hypo to wash my code at this point. To do router. Okay. So we've been able to do this. And let's see it in action. Let's try and test what we've done. So I want to send a GET request to http // I don't know the port this is running on. Now, you will not even see it here. You will not see it here. Now, where this thing is running from is from this bin folder, this www bin folder. You need to, so okay, see the port here. The port is 3000. Port is 3000 here. So, localhost 3000 / to do yeah, I just want to get. So what is it saying? So I think I need to add that trailing slash. Okay. Okay, I didn't save this file. Sorry about that. I didn't save that file. My bad. What is it saying? Okay. To-dos does not exist. Okay, so this is what I will do. Now, on connect, what I want to do is, after you authenticate, the next thing you should do would be await equalize dot sync. This you shouldn't do in your production database. This you shouldn't do this because okay, so let me explain what is happening. We've created a to-do model, but the database has not been synced with, or the database doesn't know that the application needs or is going to be using a to-do model, right? It doesn't know about this model we've just created here. So now there should be a way for you to tell the database that, or give the database the schema so that the database will use that schema and then also validate any data that is coming in to the database on the database level. Okay. So, sorry, the only way you can do that is either you write a migration script that will define what will happen when you migrate and how you can roll back that migration, which is the standard, which is what is supposed to be done. Or the simple way, since this is not the production level stuff, is to use what is it being called? SQLize.sync, and I'll say alter should be true. Okay, so you see alter true, you see something like false, true, or false, right? Alter means you shouldn't be able to create a new you shouldn't be able to create a new table, but you should be able to modify the properties of the table. Okay, but then what you might want to use while you're developing is false true. So this false is going to, if it's to create a new table to create, if it's to delete and anything like, sorry, like it's going to create and modify tables. So if we do that and we save and come back. Now, have you noticed something? Have you noticed? Drop this table if it exists and cascade it. Drop this table if it exists, then create. If this table does not exist, create it. It creates that table for us because we said that we have given SQLize the permission to alter this table. Now, if you don't want to do this, now what I've done here is going to affect all tables, every table on this DB on Postgres. What if you wanted to do it for a particular table? You can do this. You can say to-do model dot sync. See it here dot sync. And then you can still pass the same thing, maybe false of true, or what's the other one? Or alter of true, right? So now doing this is only going to, if you're doing this without writing this line, what you're saying is, once there is a change on this database, on this schema, it should automatically synchronize it. It should automatically synchronize only this table because this is the table you're referring to. Okay, so this is dangerous, right? So, but let's continue. Let's continue. So now, if I do that and I come back here to try and query the table, now it works. Can you see? It's returning an empty array because it queried, and it's the funny thing is now see it's showing you the query. You get this is SQLize, right? Showing you what its query look like. Okay, it's executing this query. Select ID, title, description, and created an art and updated art from this table to use as to do. Okay, so the reason it's saying to do as to do is because here we named the table to do. And remember that I said that your tables are supposed to be in plural form, not in singular form. So I could just rename that. And if I make the request again, it's even if it's saying to do as to do, but it's always better to keep your table name in plural, not singular. Then let me try adding it to do. So I'll do this. I say post to this same route with the content type of application / JSON and the title. The title would be Postgres lesson. The description here is a Postgres lesson. Okay, so what happened? Saying message ariki.send. Ariki.send is not a function. Let's come back here. Let's come back here. Where is it? Ariki.send is not a function. Let's come back here. Okay, sorry, it's supposed to be res.send, right? Now, funny enough, it has created that it has created the description, the title, and the to do. So let's try again. Let's say this Postgres lesson 2. This is Postgres lesson 2. Save it, send. You see created. Let's come back to this to do and let's try to get it. Okay, it didn't create the first one actually. It didn't create the first one. Okay, so see, it creates this with the ID of 1. If we try creating another one, let's say 3, we create it and we come back here to query. See, this one has the ID of 2 and it has a timestamp. You can see that. So definitely, these are an introduction to using Postgres, and you can try Postgres with these are an introduction to using SQLize, and you can try SQLize with other SQL kind of database. Like you can try SQLite with MariaDB, MySQL, Oracle, Microsoft SQL database, and the rest. And of course, these things have documentation. So if there is any new thing you want to do, you want to try out, and you don't know how it's working, you can always refer to their documentation. So with what I have taught so far, based on Postgres database and how to use SQLize, is there any question? Is there anybody that wants to ask any question? Okay. So if there's no question, the last but not the least thing I want to do is file uploads today. And we'll see how we can upload files. We'll see how we can upload files to our back end and use it, or to our database and then store it on the back end. Okay, so let's go back to the former one we're using. So cd // sample backend. I think it was just sample backend. Then I'll open it with VS Code and we'll continue from there. So let me reshare my screen. I don't think it has opened. Okay, it already opened it. Oh, okay. Interesting. Sorry. Interesting. So let me reshare my screen. let me reshare my screen. I guess you guys can see my screen. Now, the first um module you work with is Malta, right? And so what is Malta? Malta is a middleware or a package you can use to handle files. Okay? It's a middleware you can use to manage or upload files. And how does Malta work? Malta allows you to upload files or images, and we'll see how we can do that. So let's see how we can configure Malta actually. So the first thing you want to do is you want to install Malta by saying npm install Malta. So, and now when you're using Malta, what you're sending to the back end, or what you're sending to back end will be a file, right? And then that file will have a content type of multi-part. Now with this particular one, we will need Postman. Very, very important. We will need Postman. So, because I haven't really figured out how to send files using HTTP, these are tests HTTP. Anybody can actually try to figure that out. The Lord is your strength. Okay, so once we do that, the next thing we want to do is we want to configure Malta. So how do we configure Malta after installing it? We want to do this so let's take, for example, now what happens in real life when you're creating a platform where people can upload documents is you sure don't want to be doing it in each of the routes that you want to use. You want to have one single route that people can query to upload documents, and when they upload documents, that route will send you back a link to the document, and then you use the link to that document, you save that link on your database, because it's not really efficient storing files directly on your database. It's not efficient. It will eat your database up in terms of space. Your database would get filled very, very fast. Okay, so we've configured Malta, or we've installed Malta. The next thing you want to do is you want to configure Malta. So you create a utility for Malta. You say Malta config .js. And then you'd want to say upload should be equals to, so this is the simplest way to configure Malta. Okay, so I'll just say require Malta, okay, Did I install something else? npm install Malta. Well, Malta. Then what you want to do is you want to say Malta, and you want to declare where you want to save your file. So you want to save Malta, and then destination should be public. Now, not only just public, public /. You will debug and tire if you don't have that /. Hey. So you say module.export equals to upload. And what's the next thing you want to do? So let's create a route for file uploads. Let's create a route for file upload. So I could just do it here, I could just say app.post file upload. file uploads. So REQ, RES. Then I would say I want, so now I remember I said that Malta is a middleware, so you want to import it. So you say now it's the config you want to import. So you say const upload should be equals to require dot slash Abby? No, dot slash utility slash Malta config. Thank you. Then you then say upload dot single, and what you're trying to say is this file, this array should this route should accept a single file, and then what you want to pass here is the name of the field that should be used when you're uploading that file. So I could call it I could call that field file field, right? File field. I could call it file field. Now, what some people do is they might have more, like maybe you can have upload profile picture, upload this, upload that. I like having everything in one place though. So we say upload single file, and so how do we know the properties of what we've uploaded? So we want to say something like console.log, maybe file properties. We say REQ dot REQ dot file. What is going on? Okay, I didn't put a comma here. So I could just res dot send. For now, I'll say file message, file uploaded successfully. So let's just keep it as simple as that. Now, Malta also allows you to rename a file. In case you want to rename a file that's being uploaded, you can rename it. So let's test what we've done so far. We have file uploads here, and npm start. I want to start that. It's saying node more not found. Okay. So why is node more not wait. Oh, okay, I understand what is going on. Yes, I'm in the wrong folder actually. So I just need to cd sample backend, then npm run dev. Oh, what is it saying? Module not found. Malta. Oh, sorry. No wonder. So I installed it in in the wrong project. I installed it in the other project that we used for Postgres. So npm install Malta. No wonder it wasn't showing when I tried to import it. So we've done that, and then we can then come back to start our server again. Beauty. Okay. So you notice it's created a public folder for us automatically. That folder wasn't, I don't think that folder, that public folder was there before. So let's see. Now let's come to Postman. Remember, so this is running on port 3000 and our uh our route is file uploads, file uploads. So let's come here. And let's see how we can actually upload file. So I'll just create a new, so this is Postman actually, for people that are new to Postman. Welcome. I believe you will not get to you won't get uncomfortable at this point. So I'll say upload file. Listen. Okay. Shall me say it? Because your next, or shall me not say your next, one of your task, your next task, you will use you will use this what is it being called? Postman, you will use it. It's a promise. So HTTP 3000 / file uploads. Okay. So that's the route, and it's a post request you are making. The next thing you want to do is you come to these headers, right? Now, it has check. There's no content type here. It's just cage, postman, whatever. So add your own. You now, in fact, don't worry about adding your own. Just come to body and then come here and say form data. Don't worry about adding it will automatically know what to do. But if you're writing your code, maybe you're a front-end developer, the content type is going to be multi-part / form data. So in fact, if we choose this and we come back here, I think you should, okay, you didn't still add it, no problem. So we'll come here, we'll say, remember that it is the name of the field we passed to Malta was file. So we'll say file here. Then we'll convert this from text to a file. So once we convert it, it will not allow us to type in here, rather it will allow us to choose a file. So I'll choose from my machine, and I know you might not see the file I'm choosing, but by faith, I'm choosing a file. Just believe it. Believe I'm choosing a file. So I've chosen a file. That's the file itself. And then the next thing I want to do is I want to test a file upload. So I click on send, and you notice what happens. File uploaded successfully. Yay! Let's come back here. Let's come back to wait, did I share my entire screen? Oh, thank God. Okay. So let me stop sharing and let me reshare. So I'll come back to this sample backend. And if you notice, first and foremost, let's come here. First and foremost, let's come to our public folder. We come to our public folder and we see this beautiful file. If we click on it, it's saved this way. Let me rename it to .jpg and let's see. Let's see what I saved. What soup is this? I can't remember, but that was the soup that is the picture I tried uploading, right? And it saved the picture. Although it didn't save it with the correct file name and everything, but we'll see how we can work on that. Now, remember that this file, we said that we are expecting a file we are expecting a single file, and then the name of the field that will carry that file should be also named file here. That's why you can name this whatever, but when you're naming it whatever I want to name it, make sure that this name matches the file or the key to that file when you're uploading it. Then once you finish uploading it, you can get the name or the properties of that file. For example, the original name, the size and every other thing. You can get it there. Okay. Does anybody have any question as we've come this far? Any question? Now, or if you don't have any question, I would want to configure this more to make it fit well, because remember that it didn't show the picture very well until I had to rename it. Now, Malta only just helps you pick this file and save it on your back end, which is not totally okay, which is not totally cool because of some reasons. For example, what if your back end crashes and you don't have a backup of these pictures? It means everybody's picture is gone. So that's why you need a third-party service like maybe Firestore for Firebase or Cloudinary or something to save those pictures or to save those files there, so that in case you want to move your back end, to another service, maybe you're using DigitalOcean, you want to move it to Contabo, you want to move your back end from one service to another, you can move it without the stress of moving all these files together with it. Okay. So I hope there's no question. I hope there's no question. And I'll also show you how to save pictures in memory, right? Because at the end of the day, you might not even want to you don't even want to download the picture to your back end before uploading it to another service. You might want to just save it in memory and push it in memory to the service. So let's see how we can first work on renaming the file, right? So let's come back here to our Malta config. So we'll say, instead of just having the destination, we'll say Malta.disk storage. Now, the one we did before and this disk storage is used if you want to store it directly on your back end, if you want to store files directly on your back end, which means probably maybe daily you want to be or daily or monthly or weekly, you might want to be having backups of this public folder, right? You might want to do that if you want. So you say this disk storage, and then in this disk storage, you have an object. One of the properties of that object will be destination. Destination would be an arrow function. And then that arrow function will take a request and a file and a callback. Callback, and then you want to declare where that file should be saved. You can do anything with the request though, but at this point you just want to declare where that file should be saved. So you can just say callback null and /public. Remember now I'm using disk storage. It's /public, not public /. Okay, then the next thing you can do is you can change the file name. So you can say something like file name, which would also take the same parameters, req file, callback, cd. And then so now remember that this file has what? It has a MIME type. So you can do something like this, req dot. Okay. Let me install UUID. Because I want my file names to. I don't know if I installed it before. Let me check. Okay, beautiful. So I have UUID. So let's come back here. So I'll just say const UUID equals to require UUID. So my file name would be callback, sorry. My file name would be this callback, no, comma, UID dot v4 plus the MIME type. So the MIME type, now remember that the MIME type that came here, the MIME type is image/JPEG. So I want to use this JPEG because that's the extension for the image. So I want to do MIME type dot split, and I want to split by, sorry, so req dot file dot MIME type, req dot file dot MIME type dot split, and I want to split by /. So / now is going to split by /. Image will be in the position of 0, while JPG will be in the position of 1. So I'll split by / and I'll say 0. So this 0, sorry, 0 will pick image, so I'll say 1. So that one will pick that one will pick this JPEG. So that will be how the name of my file, the UID version 4. Of course, I'm supposed to call this as a function, then the MIME type and the extension there on the MIME type. So what is it saying? Okay, so it's now saying uploads dot single is not a function. Okay, let's come back here. Okay, now we are supposed to change something here. So instead of writing uploads dot single, we are going to write this. We are going to say uploads, and then sorry. We are not going to now, you're not going to say uploads dot anything. Rather, you're going to say Malta. So you would import Malta here. Malta, and then you say something like this. You say Malta here, and you say storage. Sorry, Malta. Storage. The storage should be uploads. So now what you're saying is, once I want to store a file, please use storage. Okay, what is it saying now? Argument handler must be a function. Okay. On what line actually, please? Argument handler must be a function. Oh. Oh, sorry. Oh, I think I made a mistake actually. So it will still be uploads the single, but at this point, it will still be upload the singles, but at this point, I'm not just sending back uploads this way. Rather, what I'll do is I could say file upload should be equals to Malta, and then you would say storage should be this uploads. Then what you would export is this file upload. So it's more like it's more like creating where you want to store it and then registering it as a storage on Malta. Okay. Then what else to do? So let's see, let me save this and see if it will start. It now starts running well. Let's come back to let's come back to Postman and try to upload the same picture again. Let's come back here and try to upload the picture again and again. I'll choose another picture that doesn't have a UID kind of name, because this name is like a UID kind of name. So I'll come here. Let me choose. So I choose John Scott. Sorry, you can help me and pronounce his name. Oh, wow. Okay, so whatever that name is, it starts with John. So I'll try to upload. Or what happens? Okay, so the backend crashed and it tells me that there's nothing like mime type. There's nothing like mime type. Okay. Okay, so let's come back to Postman. And let's come back to our VS Code. Let me show you the problem. So this is what he's saying. He's saying that there's nothing like mime type. And I understand why. It's because I'm trying to get this mime type from requests. Meanwhile, it's in Malta that this file will be added to request. So instead of getting it from requests, I'm supposed to get the file properties from file. So I'm not supposed to say request.file, but I'm just supposed to say file. So I do that and I come back here to Postman. And then I send that upload. So what is it saying? No such file or directory as /public. So no such file as public. Wow. Okay. So let me try something. Oh, okay. So sorry, let me show you what I actually did. The file is uploaded successfully. Let me show you what I did, what I changed to make it upload successfully. I came back here and I changed the link to the public folder to public / instead of / public, I changed it to public / and then it was able to upload that image. Now, let's come back here. Let's come back and check the name of that file. Okay. Oh, so it did not add the .jpeg here, and that is my fault actually. Let's come back here. Multi config. So I'm supposed to add a plus, then a dot before the mime name. Sorry about that. So let me delete that picture. Let me delete it. And let me just go and make the request right away on Postman. The same request. So I just made that request on Postman, and let's come back here. Oh, so we see, okay, so I guess this is the one now. Yep. So this is the image I uploaded to this place, public / this is now. Okay. And last but not the least, let me show you how to, now I want to be able to have this image, but I don't want to store it in my public folder. And this is a third way to configure Malta to use your memory, that's your RAM, to store the image, not storing it as a file on your backend, to store it as, okay. So So the images get saved on your computer or in your project folder rather. Yes, it's saved on my project folder in my computer. If this was a an online, maybe I hosted this on a backend online, it save it there. Now, it's not really, except you're using a VPS, right? But if you're using something like render.com to save your images, as soon as you make a push again and the server refreshes, all those files you saved will be deleted. We'll see this behavior when we start using databases and when we start putting our platform online, we'll see how those things happen. Now, if you don't want to store on your data on your back end or your project folder directly, right? This is how to configure it. Yeah, you can save images directly on your database. You just need to convert them to a file type that your database can use. And most times it's always a blob file type that your database will want to save those images as. So you want to convert your images to blob and save. Yes, so there is this, or you convert it to base 64. So there is a way to convert a file to base 64 and save it on database directly. Then when you retrieve that file, there is also still a way to render base 64 file back to like showing the content of that file and everything. Using that file or converting it from base 64 to a normal file and using it, something like that. But it is not advisable because you don't want your database to get filled very fast or your database to get very heavy. So the best thing is to save it somewhere else, because you don't want it that when a user is querying database, it picks all those things plus the picture and sends it back. It's not supposed to be like that. So let me show you how to save on your memory directly. So if you want to save on your memory directly, this is what you want to do. You want to, in your multi-config, instead of using this function here, you will then say const upload should be equals to multi.memory storage, short and simple, and then you say the storage should be that memory storage. So let me try to upload a different image that doesn't have anything to do. Like I'll change the image I uploaded before and I'll choose a different image. So this image I want to upload is Jason Goodman image. So I'll upload it. It shows file uploaded successfully, but you don't, okay, beautiful. Now, you don't see, it doesn't try to save the image here, but this image is available on your memory, on the RAM of your PC, and you can upload that image from your RAM directly to maybe Cloudinary or to Tigris data, for example. Okay, let's see how we can even use that Tigris data. So that was the last thing I'll do in this class, right? So let's see. Is this too much information and we should stop? So okay, I'm thinking I'm actually doing a whole lot already. If this is already too much information and I should allow you guys dilute this or so. Yes, someone is asking, is Cloudinary a good option? Yes, definitely. Cloudinary is a very good option. So now, what you want to look at is their pricing plan and their free, what is available to you to use at that point. Okay, so Cloudinary Cloudinary, I think Cloudinary does a monthly payment after you've reached your limit for their free tier, while Tigris Data does pay as you go after you've reached their limit. So the pay as you go is like, okay, at the end of the month, they will calculate how many read and writes you've made and all those stuff. And then per read, they will tell you per read is 0 point something 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 naira, per write is 0 point something 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 naira, and all those stuff, or something something dollars. And then they will tell you how many number of reads. Reads is like how many times have you tried to retrieve that image. Then write is how many times have you saved a new image or a new file on the back end, or sorry, on their part. Okay, yes. So yes, you can leverage Google Drive. So there is a way you can, and also Google Drive has its limit. I think they give 15 gig for free, and when you exhaust that 15 gig, you start paying monthly to be able to expand it. So if you're using Google Drive, then first and foremost, the folder where you're saving those files in, that folder is going to be made public. Then you also read their documentation on how to upload files programmatically to Google Drive, right? You read how you can do that, and then you can implement that. Okay. So I think I'm going to stop here because I want you guys to be able to absorb what we've done so far. And then in the next class, I'll show you how to use Tigris Data, either Tigris Data or Cloudinary or both. And I show you how to use both to upload and retrieve files, and then how to work with those files. Okay, and now let me just say, Cloudinary has some extra services. Like for example, you can configure Cloudinary to maybe crop your picture, maybe crop only your face from a picture. Say for example, you're doing something like verification, user verification or something like that. You can make it that Cloudinary should detect and crop your picture, or Cloudinary should I think Cloudinary also has that configuration to reduce or to compress your picture before saving, if you don't want to compress it from your back end before sending to Cloudinary. And the rest, it has a whole lot of those things, those other features, right? You can, Tigris Data is also there. Then there's also AWS and others, even Supabase. Supabase is like an open source version of Firebase, right? So Supabase has, I think they have this, I can't remember their name. I'm not sure it's Superstore, but they have a service you can use to also save files. Okay, so there are like a lot of options already you can use. Yeah, so I'm going to stop here at this moment, or at this point. Is there any question? Is there any question at this point? We've done a whole lot of things today in today's class. We've done a little bit on authentication. We've done a little bit on Postgres, and we've done a little bit on file uploads, but not uploading it to third-party services, just uploading it to your back end. So is there any question? Is there anybody that has any question that I want to ask? Okay, so in the absence of question, we will call it a day. Thank you for coming out to today's class, and bye-bye.